Hello and welcome back to Team 39th Rhapsody. As usual, I will be your host Tanishu, and today we will be talking about the new Destin 1 of Infinity Levidras. So, let's get into it. Starting off, we have Levidras himself. His main gimmick is act Vanguard Circle once per turn cost, Counterblast 1, choose one of each of you and your opponent's rearguard circles and put an Infinity Eyes marker onto each of them. Infinity's Eyes markers are just markers and have no special effects. However, auto Vanguard Circle, when either player's unit on rearguard circle with your Infinity's marker attacks or boosts, you may have that unit get power plus 10k or power minus 10k until the end of that battle. If your opponent's unit got power minus 10k, you must then remove that marker and then draw a card. So, this is a really cool gimmick, as it's basically force 1 whenever your unit attacks or boosts, and yes, you can proc it multiple times, but not on the same rearguard circle. Explaining this meaning that if you have one on the unit that is attacking and one on the unit that is boosting, you can proc it both for the attacking unit and the boosting unit to get a total of plus 20k power added on. It's also very good defensively, as it minuses 10k from one of your opponent's rearguards, this meaning that it can either save you from having to guard an attack or help you out guarding attack. It's really dependent on the situation, as it does give you that draw, which may give you more shield later on. Finally, his divine skill, act Vanguard Circle. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, cost Soul Blast 1, choose one of each of your opponent's rearguard circles, put an Infinity Eyes marker onto each of them, and this unit gets power plus 10k and crit plus 1 until the end of turn. While this divine skill may seem a bit lackluster, you can also think of it as adding plus 10k to one unit on your field, minusing 10k from one card in your opponent's field, and giving your Vanguard plus 10k and a crit, which, to be fair, is pretty big. However, one thing to note is that this is locked behind if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, meaning that while you do want to go first with this deck, you will go first, Counterblast 1, farm your 2 Infinity Eyes markers, in which case then you'll, on the next turn, preferably Persona Ride, farm the next 2 Infinity markers, and then Soul Blast 1 for Divine Skill to farm another 2 Infinity markers. As most of your units, as you'll see, are locked behind Levidras and having Infinity Eyes markers, this is very important. Looking at Levidras's ride line, we have Mantiscythe Dragon, Scorpiercer Dragon, and Stagnant Dragon. Stagnant Dragon is your usual grade 0 when rode upon. If you went second, draw a card. Scorpiercer Dragon is continuous, Vanguard Circle. If your soul has a Stagnant Dragon, when you would ride Mantiscythe Dragon from your ride deck, you may ride without discarding a card from your hand. While a bit lackluster, this is actually really good and the preferred ride line because Mantiscythe Dragon is so powerful. Mantiscythe Dragon is simply when this unit is rode upon by a grade 3 card with Levidras in its name, cost Energy Blast 3, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to one grade 3 or less card from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. This is really good, as it simply says, choose a card that is grade 3 or less, reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle your deck. As you are not playing grade 4 cards, this basically means anything, and for the cost of Energy Blast 3. However, due to this, it means you are not playing any of the energy cyclers, as conflicting energy with Mantiscythe and the soon to see Enagaster is enough energy for the deck already. Speaking of Enagaster, Onfall Enagaster is basically the main rearguard of the deck that says auto when this unit is placed on rearguard circle. If your Infinity Eyes markers in the same column use it, cost Energy Blast 3, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, choose a card from among them, put it in your hand, and put the rest at the bottom, and this unit gets plus 5k. This is really good, as just for the cost of Energy Blast 3, you look at top 2, add any card from among them to your hand, and then put the on the bottom or top, either stacking the top, or making sure that you don't see a card you don't need on the bottom. However, do notice that it says if your Infinity Eyes marker is in the same column as this unit, meaning that you must place your Infinity Eyes markers before you call Enagaster. Then, the real kicker is continuous rearguard circle during your turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Levidras in its card name, if there are 3 or more Infinity Eyes markers, note it says yours, this unit gets power plus 5k, and if there are no other rearguards with the same name as this unit in your back row, this unit can attack from the back row. So, what is meant by this is this gives you a 5th attack in Levidras. What's really nice about this is all you need is 3 markers and a Vanguard with Levidras in its card name. However, as this states 3 or more of your Infinity Eyes markers, and you only make 2 on the first grade 3 turn, unless, as assuming you're going first. This means that this skill will not be active on the first grade 3 turn. However, as it says 3 or more, it will on the second, third, fourth, and so on. Do also note that when it specifies your Infinity Eyes markers, this is regarded as whether any markers placed by you, meaning it does count on your opponent's side and your side. However, it has to be a marker placed by you, as the mirror matchup would get very confusing if this were not the case. Next up, we have Pakwa Huntsman Hui. So Hui is a really decent card, honestly, but to be fair, it is a common in the first wave of support. That basically says when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have an Infinity Eyes marker in the same column as this unit, cost, counterblast 1, choose up to 1 grade 3 or less card from your drop, call it to rearguard circle. Then, part of the same skill, if there are 3 or more of your Infinity Eyes markers, this unit gets power plus 10k until the end of turn. This is really good, as although it conflicts as it costs a counterblast, it's actually really good for keeping up Stokea's gimmick of drop revival and allowing you to just simply call down units without a care and being able to call them back with cards like Hui. Next up, the main grade 1 booster, Full Knowledge Foxhill. Continuous rearguard circle when during the battle this unit boosted. If you have grade 3 or Vanguard with Levidras in its card name, this unit gets power plus 5k, the usual. Auto rearguard circle, when this unit boosts a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Levidras in its card name, if your opponent's rearguard circle has an Infinity Eyes marker, this unit gets power plus 2k until the end of battle. Cost, counterblast 1, choose one of your back row rearguards until the end of this turn. This unit can attack from the back row and gets power plus 10k. So this is really good, as it allows Levidras to have a 4th attack, meaning a card from the back row, and not only does it do that for but 1 counterblast, it also gives that unit plus 10k. Please note that while it does not specify the location in terms of column where the Infinity Eyes marker is, it does require that your opponent has an Infinity Eyes marker, which they likely should as long as you are counterblasting one for Levidras's marker place skill once every turn. This comboed with Anatogastar allows Levidras to do 5 attacks pretty consistently and 4 attacks on the first grade 3 turn. While I keep talking about how counterblast heavy this deck is, we have Knight of Illusionary Science Clarence. Clarence is simply auto rearguard circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked or boosted. If your Infinity Eyes marker is in the same column as this unit and you have not countercharged this turn, put this to soul and countercharge 1. While Levidras generically does not use that much soul blast, this soul is very nice to have, and of course the countercharge is nice to have. What makes Clarence really good is that on your Persona ride turns, you can call him down into the front row, making him an 18k, allowing you to then put an Infinity Eyes marker on him if you can, making him a 28k attacker, already hitting at your opponent's 13k. Then you can then put him into soul and countercharge 1, clearing up your front row rearguard circle, and getting you the countercharge that you always need. Finally, Levidras got an order, searching for infinite knowledge. This order is basically if you have a Vanguard with Levidras in its card name, cost, energy blast 2, choose a card with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from drop, call it to rearguard circle. That unit gets power plus 5k until the end of the turn for each of your Infinity Eyes markers in the same column as this unit. While this is really good, as the power plus 5k can get really big, and only at the cost of Energy Blast 2, most builds do not play many copies of this order, as the Energy Blast 2 severely conflicts with Onfall and Anatogastar, and you already have enough drop revival from other cards that you play. Moving on to the current list and some notes. So, this list originated from the famous Vanguard player from Japan, Miretai. So if you would like to know more about this deck, I would recommend reading the note that I will link in the description. You can use Google Translate to translate it for you. It translates pretty equally, I'd say. And then, so for the current list, we obviously have 3 Levidras. You'll see one of the Persona order. 4 Anatogastar, as you want to be proccing him as many times as you can. 4 Hui. 4 of Devouring Arm. This card's really good for early rush and is really easy to call out in combination with Spiritual Body Condensation and In the Dim Darkness. Then we'll see 4 Foxhill, as you always want to have Foxhill behind Levidras. 4 Clarence, as you need the countercharge. The usual PG lineup. The usual 8 crit, 4 heal. We play the purple OT because the purple OT allows for 7 attacks if you call out Hui with the purple OT. And finally, draws. As while Levidras is a good deck, he is not anything superbly out of the ordinary, making him close to the mid tier in the meta and necessary for draws, as nothing generically draws other than adding to hand. Some notes are persona writing is definitely necessary, as while you do get force markers on your back row rearguard circle, having persona ride for your front row is very nice. CB is tight due to Levidras and Foxo, however getting to 3 markers by second grade 3 turn is necessary, which means you will always prioritize Levidras's marker skill. And then, outside of Anotagaster, Devouring Arms is your best attacker, with his condition to power up easy to gain. For those who are unaware of what Devouring Arms does, Devouring Arms is a simple card that basically says, if you played a normal order this turn, this unit gets plus 5k. Already done by Spiritual Body Condensation or in the Dim Darkness. Then, if your rearguard was placed from drop during this turn, this unit gets another plus 5k. Once again, fulfilled by both cards. And then when this unit attacks, if it's the 4th battle of this turn or more, plus 5k into the end of battle. As you are consistently doing 5 attacks, this skill is very easy to get off. Otherwise, markers are best usually placed on your opponent's front row rearguard circles, as not all decks need boosters, and your back row rearguard circles, as while Foxo does give plus 10k and Anotagaster does give plus 5k to himself. Making them all hit and asking your opponents for more than 15k shield is very nice. Finally, Divine Skill as soon as you can, as not only do you gain the crit and the power, but you gain more markers, and the markers are absolutely necessary for this deck to function. Some options to consider. Purple OT and red OT are almost interchangeable, however purple OT's heal factor is what puts it over the edge. You can try some of these other lineups. There are multiple builds of Levidras currently circling, and these were kind of my first impression cards that I thought could go into the deck. However, after playtesting with Devouring Arms, I do believe this is probably the way to go. However, people have been trying out Inwit Pulse being the generic 13k swing put the soul draw card. Some people have also been testing out Tidewine. Tidewine is the plus 10k to himself, plus 10k to your another unit for a soul blast if you persona road. This is a great 1 card that basically says after boosted soul blast to stand it, basically allowing you to add another 8k power and then stand him for the back row attack. I really don't think it's that powerful. Then we have the Magnolia units, the Gabreg allowing for the Soul Blast 1 plus 10k to himself when chosen to attack from the back row, or when the unit in front of him attacks, then allowing you to choose any of your opponent's units and they cannot guard with those units, but it is not that worth considering it'll be basically grade 2s and 3s, and there's not really ever going to be a grade 0, so he's not insane, but he is a good card. And then of course we have the set 1 grade 2 that basically says counterblast 1, copy the unit's power to this unit and add it. It is good, however you are so choked for CB that it's pretty hard to get off consistently. And then finally we have 1 to 2 copies of the cat, as the cat is a generic 20k shield and also has soul charge, which isn't bad. For some final thoughts before I get on to showing you basically how a little gameplay of Levidras is, this deck is actually pretty decent. It feels like it's missing 1 to 2 cards that could just push it over the edge. However, as this is the first set it's come out in, it makes sense for it to not be insane. I'd say it's a pretty decent mid-tier deck. However, with the variety of Stoicheia cards and its little support, it's pretty confusing to build right now, and there's a lot of ways to build it. However, I do believe this is one of the more consistent ways to build it, as it gets you started on grade 2 with Devouring Arms comboed with Spiritual Body, and then it keeps you going until grade 3 with Foxo, Hui, and then Devouring Arms again, and then finally gets you to turn 4 with Anotgastar and Devouring Arms and Hui and Foxo, allowing for multiple very strong attacks, always asking for usually more than 2 cards to guard. So, from here we'll move on to some gameplay testing. and I have been asked to show you in the sim through a video, so we will see how this goes. So, showing off a bit of the deck. Here I've ordered up VangPro, and I've already mulliganed for a basic starting hand of Levidras. So ideally you want something like this, allowing you a lot of options and a lot of things to do. So of course, starting off with the draw phase, assuming we're going first, likely the most necessary thing here is the Devouring Arms, as we have the Spiritual Body to call it back. So we can ditch the Devouring Arms here to then ride into the Scorepiercer Dragon. Now, it would be our opponent's turn. We would likely take a damage, then it would go back to our turn. Draw a card. Due to Scorepiercer's effect, we would not have to pay a card to ride. We would ride into Manta Scythe, and we can call down the Foxtail, and then use the Spiritual Body. Spiritual Body then allowing us to Soul Blast 1 to then recall the Devouring Arms. This Devouring Arms, as we played a normal order and it was placed from drop, now gets power plus 10k, thus allowing us a decently strong grade 2 turn attack. Going back to our opponent's turn, like we take a damage, got a damage. We could intercept or take another damage. Just to show you how choked for CVR, I'll just choose to not do anything. Going back to our turn, we do have to pay for the Manta Scythe Dragon's skill. So here we can, I'll just the clearance just to show you how choked for CV we are. And to ride into Levidras, we will then use the skill of Manta Scythe Dragon, allowing us to EB3 to look at the top 5, add any card to hand. As we already have Persona Ride, we do not need another Persona Ride, and depending on the matchup, as our opponent would likely retire a Foxtail, I would choose to add Foxtail, or if you need shield, add a trigger. We'll add Foxtail anyways, as this is just playtesting. Here we'd likely start off with the skill of Levidras, allowing us to counterblast 1 to add 2 Infinity Eyes markers. As I said, prioritize the back row. Here you are likely going to call an Gaster to call something else. So knowing we have this column, we can put a marker here, and then one for our opponent anywhere in the front or rear guard circle. Here we can then call our Anotgasta, as we do have a marker in the same column. We can use its skill to EB3, look at the top 2, and then 1 to hand and 1 to bot. As we already have Persona and we don't need them when it grade 3s, calling up our hand, likely Hui, putting this to bot. From here, Anotgasta from his skill then gains his +5. And as we have a marker here, we can decide if we want to call Hui in front or move him up. Hui will be very necessary next turn, as we will be using her skill to call him from drop. So maybe it's okay to just leave him in front, as there's not much else we can do this turn. So we can call Hui to the back. As this is your first grade 3 turn, your opponent is on grade 2, so it's basically okay for it to hit for little power, and is pretty expected out of this deck unless you see an order each turn. Going into battle, we can do this however. Like we swing you, use Fox's skill when he boosts Levidras to counterblast 1. He generically will get his +2, and then he will get his +5, giving Hui the effect to attack from the back row rear guard circle. And then giving her another +10k. We can then drive check. A Spiritual Body is very good for next turn, and another Persona is always welcome. Swing, and then when Hui swings, she can use the Infinity Eyes markers from Levidras' effect to get another +10. So then we'll go to our opponent's turn. That turn it actually might have been better to place the Infinity Eyes marker on the other front row, but it's okay. So our opponent will swing into us. We'll probably take 2 or something. Get power. Guard with him. They'll probably swing into the Anagaster or Foxo. Let's say they kill the Anagaster as it's open. We'll probably drop some shield. And then it'll be our turn again. So from here, this is your main big push turn. Drawing into another one is wonderful. So we'll start off with the usual Persona ride, getting our draw. We will go into the main phase. From there, we will counterblast 1 for Levidras' skill again, adding our 2 markers. And yes, this is assuming we didn't get rid of that, but it doesn't really matter. From here, we can then either choose to call first or divine skill first. I would prefer to likely call first, as I know Anagaster is going to end up in this back row rear guard circle. Energy blast 3. Look at the top 2. We are going to add Clarence to hand, put the heal on top. We can leave this heal on top as we know that we'll be able to see it when we drive check, since nothing else from our deck is going to shuffle. Anagaster will then get his +5, and during our turn, as we have Vanguard Levidras in its card name and 3 or more Infinity Eyes markers, he will get another +5. Following this, we can either Spiritual Body or Hui, depending on what we want to see. Spiritual Body will get us another +5k, so we will be going for Spiritual Body here. Soul Blasting 1 to then recall out our In the Dim Darkness. Then we'll call the other Dim Darkness. Be wary that both Dim Darkness get the power, because we both played in order this turn, and a rear guard was placed from drop. So he'll get a +10, he'll get a +10. Then we can use Levidras' skill to, or divine skill, sorry, to Soul Blast 1. Levidras himself will get +10k and a crit. And then we will get 2 more markers. So with these markers, like we can give it to either of these. And then, as we haven't shown that we've taken any off here, we'll place it back here. However, you likely took this off to guard last turn and drew a card, so you'll replace it. Now we have this getting another +10 from the marker, this getting +10 from the marker, and Hui getting another +10 from the marker. From here, we have a really big push turn, as we can go to battle. So from here, we can do whatever we want, basically. We would likely, as we have purple OT, swing one of these 2. However, the chance of seeing OT is pretty low, and we'd rather have the power gain. So we'll swing Levidras first, likely, using Fox's skill to get counterblast 1, giving Hui back row and +10k. From our Foxo, he'll get power +2, power +5. Levidras being a huge 48k swing with 2 drive and 2 crit. We'll then drive check our heal that we knew we would get. As our back row is pretty lacking right now, we would likely give it to one of them. And then our second check is nothing. So from here, that's our first attack. Hui being the second lowest, probably swing. Due to the Infinity Eyes marker from Levidras' skill, she will then get another +10. Anagaster will swing, getting another +10 from the marker as usual. Finally, these don't really matter, however this one will be bigger inherently. So you can, if you want the 45k or you want the 35k swing, is up to you. Let's say we go for the 30k using Levidras' skill for another 10. Oh, it's locked on the Hui. Giving him another +10. And then, as it is the 4th battle or more, being 1, 2, 3, 4, he will get another +5. Then 30 plus another 5. And that's basically your big push turn. As you can see, you have plenty of markers on your opponent's side to get rid of and turn into draws for you. However, if you will notice, as I did not hit many triggers, your hand is pretty lacking, and being at 4 using all your CB is pretty bad. This is why clearance is absolutely necessary, and why this deck is still only an okay deck, but with more support could be pretty great. Anyways, that's all for me today. Thank you for watching.